Hello, and welcome to the Catching the Octopus podcast. Here, we will explore how connecting inward gives us an advantage outward. We openly talk about the obstacles and challenges and difficulties that life throws our way and how they become moments of gratitude and things that can benefit us when we look back on our lives. I'm your host, Naomi Hurley, and it is my mission to bring you top quality guests that will share with you openly their obstacles and also the techniques they use to go inward that strengthens the way that they serve themselves and others at the highest level. Thank you for joining. Let's get started. Thank you for joining me today in this episode of Catching the Octopus podcast. I'm also joined by a guest today. Alissa Pongus is joining us. She is the owner of Alissa Marie Coaching and Mentoring, which is a life coaching and business mentoring business, but she's also got extensive experience in other businesses in leadership and management roles. So welcome, Alissa. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. Would firstly, I suppose, just to start, do you mind just introducing yourself and giving us a bit of a background on you?
Yeah, sure. So I am Alissa, the owner of Alissa Marie Coaching and Mentoring. I have many labels, and I think most women these days do. So I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I am an employee, I am a business owner, and I also do the back end business for our family tradie business as well. So there's lots of labels that I bear, and I love getting to switch out the hats in between each and every one of them. Now, the employee part is I've worked for a privately owned company for the last 14 years as in the early childhood industry. So I definitely didn't start off in leadership and management.
Yes.
I started off at 14 years old as a trainee, studying my Cert 3, right? So then as time passes and I evolved, I worked up the scale, went to many different services within the company to expand my knowledge and expertise. And then 4 years ago, I landed a further position within management as a director of a service. So now I get to lead a team of 20 women each day within my service and also ensure that the service is running at the high exceeding level of expectations that we have. And I get to coach and mentor my staff and my team to be able to perform to their best ability and also ensure that they're not just a number, that they are recognized, that they are valued, and that in the past you used to hear things like, "Well, leave your problems at the door." So I don't really like to live by that at all. I like my girls to come in. If they have something they need to speak about, then they can feel very comfortable in doing so and addressing that with me. Therefore, they can release all that before they actually go on the floor and work with our young ones. So I have lots of experience in lots of different areas, and I love how they all get to integrate so beautifully.
I can relate to everything you just said. So I sit in the same space, lots of hats, lots of roles that I play. But I think even like I have some people who say to me, "Oh my goodness, you've got so much going on. It must really take your time." But I find it actually feeds my soul because I get to be different people in different spaces and feed different parts of me. Do you find the same?
Yeah, 100%. And this was something I shared on Instagram the other night. There was a reel I created of me, like in my baggy clothes, messy hair as a mum, and then in a matter of seconds, I transformed into this glamorous, beautiful businesswoman. And I put in there like, let's celebrate all the labels we have, all the different roles we get to play, even if it is us in our baggy clothes, mumming and doing all the grubby jobs around the house. Then being able to shift from one role to another, essentially we're the same person. However, we get to embody different parts of us, different qualities and traits to then fulfill that different role. Because how I act at home in my baggy clothes is definitely not how I would be in the workplace. So I love getting to map across me as one in every role, however, get to embody different qualities and traits to then, fulfill those roles so beautifully.
Yeah, I'm hearing you there. And I also connected with when you said, you're mentoring and coaching your staff and getting them and giving them space to just be and to be their best versions. I did similar when I was in corporate, which is really what inspired me to move into this whole entrepreneurial space. Is that how kind of
Yeah. So I found there was a gap in the system Obviously being a trainee for such a long time, or somebody that was an educator on the floor, I had experienced lots of different roles of leadership through the different people that had fulfilled those roles within the services I worked. And there
Yes.
was a few that stood out to me, and I was like, I want to be like them.
Yeah.
And then there was a few that I noticed were very old school in a sense, that their way of thinking was very old school thinking, which is nothing wrong with. Like, I think
No?
there's a great balance. However, it was all very much, you leave your problems at the door. There was not much flexibility. And for me, I had become a mum before I stepped into the director's position. And I remember before being a mum, I was like, oh yeah, like this person wants school holidays off. Like, I remember it being very like that. And then when I
Yeah.
became a mum, I was like, shit, this
Yeah.
is like, you need to be flexible. You need to be accommodating, because for me in my service, I'd say probably 70% of my staff are mums.
Mm. Mm.
Now, and back then there wasn't very many part-time positions available in the early childhood industry, because we wanted consistency and we wanted the same people all the time,
Of
which
course.
is
Yeah.
still the case. However, I have a lot more women now on a part-time contract, and being able to be a mum and be their best version of themselves at work, because they're being able to split themselves up and not feel like they're either not putting in enough effort at work or not putting enough effort as being a mum. So I saw this gap, and I was like, something has to be done about it. And because I embodied being a working mum, so I do the director's role on a part-time contract myself. I job share with somebody
Awesome.
else.
Yeah.
And I've been able to role model that excellence to my girls, that I can work 2 or 3 days a week and get that whole role done. You can do the same. If you need to drop down in days to accommodate your family life, then so be it. And it
Yeah.
just, because I noticed such a huge gap, and since I've come in and shifted things, it is such a harmonious place to work. And in the past, it wasn't so much. Like, it was great. However, you could just feel there was a bit of tension here and there when the women and the mums were getting stressed out because they couldn't do all the things. So
Yeah.
I'm very much one to advocate, like, you can do all the things, and I'm here to support you in that. How can I help?
Mm, mm. And it's not an either or. I think we've been,
No,
especially when I first started in, I did the same. I was more in the office, but I started traineeship and worked my way up into that space. And you see those great leaders that you can model from. But yeah, over time, as we evolve and our circumstances change, it allows us to see things differently as well, doesn't it? So
100%.
you
Yeah.
know, us having all of these hats is actually really beneficial to the people in our teams, because we are able to say, well, no, it's okay to have and rather than either or.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I've noticed since I have stepped more into that, the other services are then asking questions. How can I implement this? How can I implement that? And I love being the person that they go to ask,
Yeah.
because I feel like, sometimes you can doubt your expertise or your knowledge.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then when I have my girls or the other services asking questions, I'm like, this is my mission. Like, this is my purpose. I love being able to coach and mentor people through
Yeah.
life and business. And I also love being in the industry I'm in. Like, I grew up in it, and
Yeah.
I get to see it from a whole different scope and lens now, which has really made a huge impact on our service.
Yeah, well, I have a leadership program that I deliver, and I've been delivering it at a law firm. And so we came to the communications module, and I'm like, oh my God, these people communicate all the time. Like, this is their jam. How am I going to teach them anything? But there was lots of questions, and I
Of
think
course.
we underestimate that it doesn't matter what our title is, doesn't matter what we do for a living. We're all just beings of learning. And if someone's open to our experience, we've got something we can share with the world, right?
Absolutely. It's a whole, and sometimes having someone external come in with a fresh set of eyes, it makes a world of the difference, because
Yeah.
what you may do may be completely different to how they operate things, and then they get to try and implement that within their space or their company. And if it works, that's fantastic, and if it doesn't, it's been a learning opportunity. So I always feel like having a fresh set of eyes is the best way to move forward with any type of plan or training, because at the end of the day, we can get so comfortable in the roles that we're in, right? We get
Yeah.
comfortable at times, and we don't actually see if there's things that are a little bit rickety along the way. So having
Yeah.
somebody else step in and say, hey, how about trying this, is like a breath of fresh air, really.
Yeah, most definitely. And Yeah, there's so many examples I could bring in, but I do want to make this podcast about learning more about you. So I'll have to save them.
That's
I'll
okay.
do another episode. So in that coaching and mentoring space that you do, I know with a lot of coaches and mentors, there's some, buzzing around NLP and things like that. Do you do anything around that space, and can you explain a little bit more to people that
Yeah,
might not
so
understand it?
coaching and mentoring can get thrown around quite a bit, in my experience. And you often hear people say that coaching and mentoring is a scam, or it's, not exactly what people think it is to be. And to that, I say that could be true for some people. The people that don't go do their certifications, that don't
Yes.
have the background knowledge, that don't actually embody the leadership side of things, that don't continue to upskill and invest in themselves. For me, right, it's been 2 years almost that I've been on my healing journey, self-development. My business clocked 1 year in business just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
thank you. I absolutely love it. I through my healing journey, I never thought I was going to become a coach and mentor. Put it that way.
Yeah.
I had no intention. I always knew grew up around a lot of domestic violence as a child, and I always knew, oh, one day I want to talk to people about that. That
Yeah.
was just as a kid.
Yep.
And once I started my healing journey, it took a incident after giving birth to my second born that I ended up in ICU.
Mhm.
And after that, I knew that one, they had told me I was supposed to die. So I was like, okay, this is an awakening. Like, I should actually listen to the universe now.
Yes.
I had realized the post traumatic experience of that, I wasn't able to bottle up the things that I had dealt with in the past anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, something needs to be done about this. So the whole reason why I started this journey was so I could regulate my emotions, because I never was really able to as a child,
Yeah.
uh, and to be a better parent for my kids. So then I didn't pass this generational trauma on. So
Nice.
when people check out my socials, they'll see everything to do with cycle breaking. I'm super passionate about cycle breaking.
Hmm.
And then it come to a point where my coach said, you've got it in you to be doing this with other people. And I was like, no way, absolutely not. No way, that's not for me.
Imposter syndrome. Hello.
Yeah, of course. And then I stepped into doing NLP,
Yeah.
which stands for neuro linguistic programming, for anyone that doesn't know. So neuro meaning the mind, the unconscious mind. Linguistics is the language we speak and what we perceive and think, and programming is what has been programmed in our unconscious mind, knowing that the unconscious mind is 95% of our brain,
Of course.
which is
Yes.
really interesting, right?
Yes.
When
Yeah.
we're driving, it's unconscious. When we're writing, it's unconscious. When we're breathing, walking, all those things are unconscious movements and, behaviors that we
Programs.
do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So NLP I did with an amazing academy, which I can share links to for anyone that wants to know. It's really accessible because you can do it online, and it was
Yep.
7 days of intensive training online, or you got to go in person, which is over east in the Queensland. So I did the initial NLP online, which was fantastic.
Yep.
I think people think they have, if they were doing NLP, it's purely to become a coach and mentor, and I call bullshit on that. It is absolutely to crack you wide open and to do the inner
Yes.
healing, and you realize things that
Yeah.
you actually didn't know about yourself, to
Yeah.
heal, to be able to have a whole different perspective and see things from a whole different lens.
Mm.
Then you do get to finish with the qualifications of coaching, mentoring, and hypnosis and ECT. You get to decide what you do with those certifications, though. This
Yes.
is for anybody and everybody that wants an intensive, deep dive on themselves and wants to really awaken every part of themselves. So that was the
Yeah.
7 days of that. And then even going into NLP, I didn't have the thought of me becoming a coach, right? I did it. I celebrated that night when I finished, and I was like, yay, I'm finished. And then I hopped on my stories for the first time ever, and I spoke to my audience. And from then, I've been running a very successful coaching and mentoring business.
The rest is
So,
history. Yeah.
so then there is NLP first, and then you get to, if you wish to, you don't have to, there is Master Practitioners Neurolinguistic Programming. So that's a
Yeah.
15-day container. And my
Yeah.
God, that if I thought NLP was magical, this was a whole lot more in depth. And this only can be done in person. So still with the same training academy. That was the first time I've ever left my children, ever
Yeah.
gone over East on my own, stayed with women I didn't know. There was, I think, 60 of us in the class, and
Wow.
it was incredible. It was the best experience of my life. And I didn't want to come home, to be honest. I had felt so aligned with the people I met. And I thought to myself,
Mm. Found your
how can I
tribe.
bring this? How can I bring this into my business and into the workplace, of feeling that alignment with the people that I'm with? And
Yeah.
not everybody is going to have the same thought process as you. Not everybody's going to feel the same way as you. However, if you can just build that rapport and having a connection with somebody that's genuine,
Yeah.
you're going to find it a lot more enjoyable to interact with those people. And look,
Yep.
not everybody is for us, right? Which is great because we
Yep.
can't simply serve everybody. However, knowing that you're coming from a place of love always then gets to ripple onto everyone else that you get to communicate and engage with. And you never know what impact that has made in their life. It might just be a hello, a smile.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be the world of difference for somebody else. So that is how the whole NLP thing started. That was a big background. And
Yeah.
so I utilize that in coaching and mentoring now. It all depends on what my clients come to me with. So some people may think, for example, me, I initially thought the birth experience was my problem. That was the root cause. No, there was
No.
20 years
Yeah.
before that,
Yeah.
26 years before that, where it all started.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realize, and this especially goes for business, right? A lot of people don't realize that if things are a bit messy in life, it's going to map across to your business. And some people
100%.
don't realize, for example, I had one client who we were working through guilt, feelings of guilt. She had left the cage open of a rabbit cage at the age of 7 and it ran away.
Yeah.
Who would have thought
Yeah.
30 years later she's still dealing with guilt because of that moment of her pet running away because she forgot to close the cage? Like,
Yeah.
these are the tiny things that imprint in our unconscious mind, and sometimes we have no idea that it's actually happened
Yeah.
until we do that deep dive. And there's a beautiful process that I get to do with my clients where we go way back when. Sometimes it's a past life, sometimes it's in when you're in utero, and sometimes it's when you're a child, and you may not even remember that it happened until
Yeah.
we get to. So there's lots of different things that we work through, and a lot of people don't realize that a trauma that you may have experienced is definitely not comparable to anybody else's. And a lot of people don't feel like they can take up space or have space held for them because they feel like the other person's got it worse off than them. So they never end
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
saying anything. At the end of the day, your trauma is your trauma.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to tell you how hard it was or how easy it was. You get to decide.
Yeah. And it's each experience is personal to us, and that's
Exactly.
okay. Like it's
No,
yes, there might be people starving on the other side of the world, but that doesn't invalidate the fact that I feel
no,
really shitty right now, right? And
yeah,
I'm allowed to
exactly.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we are allowed to, and that's the thing. A lot of people think that we shouldn't be shown. And so this was my problem in the past. Growing up, I never showed emotion because I was the strong one.
Wasn't
I was the
and
older
it wasn't safe
sister.
to, right?
Three, no, I was the
Yeah.
oldest sister of three. I always often took care of my sisters and my mum, and I was
Yes.
the mediator, the meat inside the sandwich. So I never cried. And then one day I cried, and everyone thought that I was dying. They're like, "What's wrong? Is she okay?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I just done with being the strong one." And
Yep.
now I still embody that strength. However, I'll cry if I need to. And I'll
Yeah.
show my kids that it's okay to cry. And often my girls at work, if something comes up for them, they try and hold back the tears. And I'm like, get it out. Come on, we need to work through this. There's no point bottling it up because then those types of events will then manifest into physical illnesses or physical symptoms. And it's
Correct.
just a downward spiral from there if we don't actually get to the root cause.
Yeah. I had a client come in that was actually, I've had many clients. So as well as the leadership stuff, as you know, I do like RTT, which is a different modality, but the same end game as what you're doing. So, some people like playing tennis, some people like playing cricket. So there's some people that
Yeah.
like going to coaches like you, some people like coming to coaches like
Yes.
me. But yeah, it was amazing. It was like Hashimoto's disease, so that autoimmune disease, and the amount of shame and guilt that she came up with from scenes throughout of her life that we're able to work on that actually created healing for her physically. And I don't think that people always understand, because if we look at the example I use, if we look at stress,
Mm-hmm.
and we look at, stomach ulcers. If you go to the doctor and you say, why'd you get a stomach ulcer? The doctor's going to say, you're stressed. And what's stressed? Thoughts and emotions. Oh, crap,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Thoughts and emotions create problems in our body.
Or you'll often find that people, I don't know why I call them normal people, because this is a whole nother realm that we
Yeah.
we speak into. The
Yes.
normal people, the simulation that's going on outside of us,
Yeah.
start to think these people are crazy. Like, it definitely isn't an emotion that's making me have acne or a
Yeah.
heated rash or
Yeah.
abscesses. And when
Or
that, like,
eczema because I'm not
yeah,
comfortable in my skin, or whatever,
yeah.
whatever
So
it is.
this is
Yeah.
this is the thing, right? And
Yeah.
people, this we get judged based on the knowledge we have. And though it's actually quite great, because then you start to trigger people and it awakens them to be like, okay, well, if they're triggering me, what is it that's in me that they're mentioning? How can I unravel this within self? And I think a lot of people seem to forget, or they don't know, perception is projection. So if
Yes.
I'm triggering you, what is it within you that is actually being triggered? Where does it
Yeah.
come? Where does it boil down to?
Yeah.
Also, you'll find this day and age, a lot of people go to the doctors for absolutely everything.
Yeah.
They don't look into the holistic side of things because, that's way too woo-woo. That's not normal. Yet, is it normal to go to the doctors for every little thing and get medicated for every little thing and then continue on that journey of feeding this thought of I'm constantly sick? Like there's this
Yeah.
whole whirlwind of things that come from it when if people just put a little bit more trust in their intuition or the people that know what they're talking about, it would save them a whole lot of challenges, I reckon, and hurdles because you can clear up so many illnesses and physical symptoms by addressing your emotions.
Oh, yeah, so much. And I actually launched a podcast a couple of episodes ago from this one around past life regressions because I'm moving into that as
Yes.
well under hypnosis. And to even just because I know my audience, I actually went in and I found studies, right? And I've backed it up with peer-reviewed articles that people can go and get more research in just to give them that sense of, oh, it can't be too crazy if she's actually given
Yeah,
us places to do more research from, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because sometimes I feel like when it's word of mouth or they're just listening to us speak into this, they're probably thinking, well, where's the facts? Where are
Yes.
you getting this information from? Are you making it up? Are you crazy?
Yeah. And well, I've got such a logical mind as well. And before I moved into this space, I had my own doubts and I was very
Yeah.
skeptical. So I think, well, what helped me is to have this evidence-based
Yeah.
research to get my mind to go, you know what, your mind is in a box right now. You need to
And
throw
that's
the
the
box
problem.
away, right?
The society in itself does that to us. Even the schooling system does that to our kids,
Yes.
pops them in a box, makes sure they've got a nice, beautiful label on it, and you got to
Yeah.
stay in your box because otherwise you're then, being disobedient or whatever it may be. And it's like,
Yeah.
how are we supposed to raise our children or the next generation to be consciously aware if the whole of society and the schooling systems in particular continues to embed those programs on us and our children? Like it's really tricky. It's a battle that I'd say there's a small minority of us that think this way and get to deliver this work
Yeah.
compared to everybody else. It's quite a barrier to be able to work through and ensure that you're still being true to yourself and aligned with yourself and allowing your children to be open to what you have to give them, and then also allowing my kids to know, okay, yes, the teacher has my best interest at heart, however there's more to that rather than just exactly what you're being shown.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
tricky.
Well, it's interesting as well how their minds, like with my kids, I open because I do energy healing as well. I don't really promote that a lot, but I've been doing a fair bit of that. And, my kids were kind of like, oh, mum's doing her hippie.
Yeah,
But when something happens, the first thing I go is, oh, mum, my shoulder hurts. Can you put some healing on it, please? Oh,
yeah,
my leg's sore. Can you do some healing, please? So they know it
they know.
works, but their
Yeah,
little logical minds are too, I suppose,
yeah,
programmed to accept it at this point, you
yeah.
know?
If you're enjoying this podcast and you want Naomi or any of her guests featured on your podcast or as a keynote speaker at your next event, you'll find their contact details included in the show notes. If you'd like to learn more about how you can work with Naomi individually or as part of your strategy to improve leadership in your business, then review the courses, offers and services at getupandgroconsulting.com.au.
I think as time goes and we continue to be this version of ourselves and continue to share that with our children, we don't have to force them into this way of thinking. However,
No.
we're just exposing them to it
Yep.
because they then get to decide later on down the track what they want to believe or what they want to pursue. And we can do the best we can with the resources that we have at that time to guide them as best as possible.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, we talked a little bit, or you talked a little bit, I totally agree about that whole shaping of our reality through experiences, events,
Yes.
timelines from childhood right up to now. So if we're sitting here and we're like, okay, there's something about the way I feel, think, or behave that really isn't connecting with me anymore, because as you and I know, it was helpful at some point, right? Or it
Yeah.
wouldn't be there,
Yeah.
right?
It was a
But
lesson.
yeah, but now it's not helpful anymore. How can people step in and start creating their own reality, the reality they want rather than the one that's programmed for them?
Yeah, so it's so funny. And in the funny sense of not laughing, but however,
Yes.
the way of creating your reality is actually doing the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
people think it's this whole woo-woo scenario that, wow, I have to perform magic and spells to create this beautiful, abundant life. No. What happens is you get really bloody clear on what you want. You discern on, okay, all right, these things don't feel in alignment anymore. I don't like my job. I don't like who I'm hanging around. I don't like the habits that I have. What can I do about it? Now, it can often be quite difficult to do that on your own. Hence why people invest in coaches and mentors.
Yes.
Ones that have the certifications behind them, not ones that just blow smoke up you to make you think that you're doing the right thing or not, and it's all opinion based. You want the people that have the evidence and the knowledge and the certifications to be able to guide you best as possible, right?
Mm.
If you know that some things aren't in alignment anymore, and look, it may not be every area of life. However, it might be one thing, it might be habits, it might be your physical health. You feel like, you'd like to lose weight, you'd like to be healthier, you'd like your skin to be glowing. What aren't you doing to get that?
Yeah.
It's as simple as, what aren't you doing? And what are you willing to do to get to that point? You need to be super bloody clear with yourself and intentional, and stop letting that ego step in and tell you, oh, we'll just start next Monday. Oh, we'll start in 2025. Like, how many times have you set a goal for yourself realistically? And this is a great question to ask people.
Yeah.
And haven't done anything about it, or haven't succeeded.
Yeah.
Because you haven't been disciplined enough. And this is, I'd love to go on about this. Discipline over motivation any day of the week, because motivation, in my opinion, is for lazy people. If you have to wait to find motivation, you're not actually going to achieve anything. However, if you're disciplined, you're going to do it anyway, even if you don't feel like doing it sometimes, because you're in that consistent routine of being disciplined.
Yeah.
So if something isn't aligning with you anymore, my advice is to peel back the layers and have a look, right, what don't I align with? And this is where me as a life coach specifically, I look at every area of life with my clients. So whether that be health, wealth, work, relationships, fun, spirituality, and money. Yeah. You may think every area of your life is fantastic until we do the little test to tell you, and you look at that graph and you're like, oh, shit. You realize, Then we go, okay, what is lacking here? What is lacking there? Because if you're lacking in one area of your life, it's going to map across to all of them.
To the rest.
Yes. So that's where I love to pull apart your whole life. We literally we start from the foundational basis of, okay, what time are you waking up? What time are you going to sleep? What are you consuming physically? Like, what are you eating? What are you watching on social media? What are you drinking? Who are you surrounding yourself with? What else is there? Like, what movement are you getting into your body each day? Are you doing any form of movement? The job that you have, is it purely for the money, or you're very passionate about it? The relationship you're in, is it just for the sake of being in that relationship, or is it actually fueling your fire to be with this person and you feel super passionate about it? Like, there's so many questions that I'll ask to pick apart to get to the root cause, because if you don't get to the root cause, you're just going to continue to band-aid up whatever this problem may be and never actually create a solution for yourself. And this is where we talk about collapsing time and quantum leaping, and a lot of people again think, oh, they're talking all this spiritual woo-woo stuff. Literally, quantum leaping and collapsing time is you thinking of what you're going to do and you actioning it. Not taking a year to decide, okay, am I going to start that business? Am I not? Because you've just delayed yourself a whole year. And if time isn't guaranteed, because it's a privilege denied amongst many, right? If time isn't guaranteed and you wait a year, you may not get the time, but that time may not come that you get to do that because you waited so long. So for what purpose are you choosing to wait? For being ready. And this is another thing that I get heated about. Waiting to be ready might mean forever.
You're never going to be ready. There'll always be, if you're wired that there's an obstacle now, then there's always going to be an obstacle, because your brain's going to be trying to find it.
And where your focus goes, your energy flows. So if you're worried about, like, for example, you hear many women say, oh, I'm not ready to have a child yet, which is great. Because financially, I want to get married, I want to have a house, I want to do this, if you keep focusing on all the things you want to do, you're never going to get to that point, right? Like, everybody gets to decide when they have babies. It's not the point. It's more so where you focus where you focus on is where your energy is going to go. So if you keep focusing on, oh, but I just want that other advancement in my career before I have the baby, or I just want this next pay up, you're going to be waiting forever. You're going to wait for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you're only disadvantaging yourself, because that may be something you really deeply desire. However, you're waiting for external factors to validate you for you to be able to go and progress in whatever it is you want to do. So if something's not aligning, and another thing that's great to remember, and I like to swear a lot, so I apologize, podcast. If it's not a full body fuck yes, you don't do it. Because if it's even 1% off the full body fuck yes, it's not in alignment. Even that 1%, because think about how many times do you say yes to going to that family gathering that you don't want to go to? How many times do you say yes to doing something that you don't want to do? How many times do you say, yes, I'll stay back at work, and you don't want to do that? Every time you say yes to something that you're not in alignment with and it doesn't feel like a full body fuck yes,
Yeah.
you're just steering way off your path again. And that's when you don't feel in alignment. That's where you feel tired. That's where you feel drained. That's where you don't feel like you're having fun, that you're not reaching a purpose in life. And a lot of people, like, it's as simple as that. It's not this scientific experiment that we, wave our wand and off you go. It's like literally you do the things that you want to do and you'll get to where you want to be. With the right help, of course, with the right strategies and with the right support. If you're surrounding yourself with people that aren't doing the things that you want to do or don't think the same way that you are or don't have similar goals and aspirations, then you aren't exactly going to get very far, because they say, I believe it's you are the average of the 5 people you hang around.
Yeah. Yeah. And we sink into the people that we're around. I mean, even physically as women, if we spend too much time with people, our cycles even sink in. So
yes.
so that's the mental, body and emotional connections that go in. I have another question for you.
Go for it.
I hear people sometimes say, I need to find myself, or I'm lost and all this. And I really just shudder at that, because I'm just wondering if you're in the same alignment. I believe you will be, but what we have is already in us, right? It's just picking apart all the stuff that's covering it. It's not about going out and looking for something.
You'll often find the ones that say, and people sometimes do feel lost, or they don't feel like, they're living their true purpose or whatever it may be. You'll often find there's a secondary gain for them saying that over and over again, because they're either getting the attention, the affection, the connection that they're lacking, that they desire, by saying this all the time. And they can have either been programmed with this as a child, like often hearing other people speak this way, or possibly limiting beliefs and not feeling good enough and not feeling worthy are present. So therefore, that's like an automatic response that comes straight out of them. Sometimes they don't realize that that's what's being said, or the intention behind it, knowing that the words we speak create our reality, right? And the things that we think create our reality. When I hear that, sometimes I think to myself, it's just an excuse.
Yeah.
They're using, and a lot of people do feel lost, do feel stuck, but what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
You don't need to search for anything, right? It's all in. You just
all
need to look in.
You are the magic. You are the answer. You are the person that is, you are the $1 million version of yourself if you want it to be.
Yeah.
You are the healthiest version of yourself if you want it to be. You are the most happiest person, version, highest purpose, whatever you want to call it. You are all that if you choose to be that.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to figure out. Are you willing to decide, then act and commit to then being this new version of yourself? Because we're all the same person.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I'm still the same physical person externally, but internally, I am a whole different soul. Same soul, but completely
same
evolved.
soul, but different belief systems that have come in,
correct.
right?
100%.
And unraveled in that space. So I know that there's lots of synergies between you and I, but if I liken that, there's always strive for learning, becoming better, helping people, all those sorts of things. What are and we talked, or you mentioned about, the words that we use and the thoughts that we have create our reality. What are some of the ways that you make sure that you're thinking the right way, talking the right way, so that you can have that success in your life?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, sometimes I catch myself when I say the wrong word. However, I'll always correct it.
Yeah.
We are a soul having a human experience for the first time, right? So, however, I always correct myself. Yeah. So some of the words and the phrases that I love to make sure my clients are on the same path with is not saying but, because but is an excuse that connects you to the next excuse. So instead you could say and or however. So you could say, I really want to get all my work today. Some people would say, but going to the shop is more important.
Yeah.
Or you could say, and I need to go to the shop because I have something important I need to do there.
Yep.
Swapping out that word straight away. Trying. If I hear trying, I cringe, because trying is not, and I was actually on my stories today talking about this. Trying is not a tangible action.
No.
Trying is an excuse.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, well, I'm trying to build up my business. Well, what are you doing to do that? You actually are doing it, or you're not doing it? Which one is it?
Yeah. Well,
trying is the...
Sorry, I was just going to mention in the hypnosis that I do with the RTT, one of the elements I do as a deepener is say to them, try to open your eyes.
Yeah.
And now they're locked shut. And it was like, oh my God, my eyes didn't open. I said, yeah, because I told you to try. Your brain tried, and your brain tried. I saw your eyes go. I didn't say open your eyes, otherwise you would have, right?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. There's also sorry. I feel like sorry gets thrown around a lot. You know,
Mm,
so often we bump into somebody, oh, sorry, I'm late, sorry this, sorry that. And it gets thrown around that it starts to lose its purpose quite a bit.
mm,
And
mm,
this is something I teach, like, for the children I care for, even in my workplace. I've spoken to my girls. We don't force the kids to say sorry. How often do you hear people say, all right, it's time to say sorry to Johnny for
yeah,
taking his toilet? When really we want them to learn the true meaning of being sorry, because for kids, they're going to say the word, but they're going to have no idea what it actually means because they've been forced to say it for such a long time. We
yeah,
think we're doing the right thing by encouraging them to apologize. So for me, whenever I need to apologize to someone, I actually would say, I apologize.
yeah,
It's way more intentional. It's way more
yeah.
impactful.
Love that.
And then it also allows me to stop saying sorry for the small things, because am I
Yeah.
really sorry? Really? You just say it to be polite.
My daughter did something the other day. I can't even think of what it was. I think she threw something at me or dropped something, or I don't know. It was just something trivial. And I went and I said to her, Zoe, and she's like, I'm sorry. And I looked at her, no, you're not. And she goes, no, I'm not. And
Yeah,
we did
exactly.
that to purposely stir me up and we had a laugh about it. But yeah, we're programmed to just go, sorry, sorry. And
Yeah,
that's the get out of jail free card, right?
yeah, absolutely. Another one is can't. And this is something else I was talking about on my story. So can't should not be used, because you can absolutely do anything you want if you
Yeah.
choose to.
Yeah.
Either you want to do it or you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Can't, like, I really believe can't is a word that you would use in very limited situations, that obviously there may be something that physically can't happen.
Yeah.
However, in day-to-day life, how often do you hear people say, oh, I can't? Well, why
Yeah.
can't you? Why? What's the
Mm,
excuse? What is the reason? For what purpose? It's
yeah.
like, tell me more. Like, this is all surface level conversation, and I'm a big advocate for expansive conversation and really getting to the bottom. Sometimes people look at me like, oh my gosh, she's so full on. And I love it though. I absolutely love it,
It's
because
challenging. Yeah.
everybody, we live, like, so many people you'll find are living that NPC life, non-playing character on autopilot, just
Yeah.
doing their thing. In my opinion, living a mediocre life. However, they may love their life, which is great for them, that they actually forget to connect with one another. And it's the
Yeah.
same with, like, social media and being on your phone and all these things. Where is the expansion in the conversation? Where is the connection? Where's the rapport? Where's where is the human interaction?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not there.
No.
So many people are so used to just zoning off, and off you go with your day.
So I've got three questions that I ask all my clients. So we'll start with the first one. So I had this belief, and kind of you touched on it before as well, that everything in life is purposeful. So one of my questions is, do you have an obstacle, or what's the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome? But how did that also strengthen your connection inward?
Wow, that's a big one. The biggest
It's two
obstacle
more
I've
after this, so brace yourself.
the biggest obstacle I've ever had to overcome was me landing in ICU for 2 weeks,
Hmm.
never leaving my son before. So I
Hmm.
had a 2-year-old son at the point of this, being bedridden, not being able to fend for my newborn, not being able to look after my son. Like, I'd never even left him with my husband on him. Not that there was any reason to.
No,
This
no.
postnatal anxiety that I had from all this childhood trauma was really
Yes.
strong with my son. So I just never had left him. And the fact that I had lost all ability to move, feed myself, go to the toilet, that was the biggest obstacle of my life.
Hmm.
And knowing that every day that my son came in to see me, I couldn't hug him and kiss him. And I knew that they had said to me, like, you're on your way out. Like, you shouldn't be alive. And that was the biggest obstacle, because I was like, fuck, I'm either
Yeah.
going to die or I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
And I remember I put on sitting in that hospital bed. So it was a long journey, and the hospital didn't know what was wrong for me for 9 days. Anyway, they had said they're going to put me out of theatre. Didn't happen. It ended up happening. Anyway, got to being in my hospital bed, and I was actually quite down by this point. I remember I asked my mum to bring me a knife to cut my orange. My mum thought I wanted a knife to do something to myself, because that's how
Hmm.
bad my mental health had got. She
Yeah.
actually took the butter knife home with her, because that's how worried she was. And I was like, I just want to cut my orange. There's no
Yeah.
knives in this place. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I remember being that low, that conversation really stuck, because I was like, fuck, they think I'm going to do something to myself. And I
Yeah.
sat there and I looked on Spotify, and I just chose a happy playlist. I don't know, I needed something to keep me occupied and my mind out of my head. And in this happy playlist came on Stand By Me by Benny King.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not necessarily a happy song. However, it was my father-in-law's song, and he had passed
Oh,
away 2 years
oh,
before that. And when that song played, I messaged my husband. I was like, you wouldn't believe it. Like, this song has just played on a happy playlist, which not
yeah.
necessarily is a happy playlist. I was like, he's here and he's telling me I got to hold on. Like, I got to hold on, because
Yeah.
not only did I end up in ICU, my daughter then contracted the same group A strep at however many days postpartum she was. I can't remember. I think it was
Yeah.
4. She had to go in special care nursery, and I remember them telling me she would have, like, could have died in 4 hours if they didn't treat her immediately. So I
Oh,
was not in a great place. And that song played, and I thought to myself, I have to do something about this. I
yeah.
need to stay alive and be fit and healthy and strong for my kids and my family. Like, I got to get out of here. As soon as I got the all clear, I left. And I still had to be a patient, though. I still had to come every day, but I
Yeah.
left. I was like, I'm out of
Yeah.
here. Get me out. This is the most depressing thing I've ever dealt with.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I knew that healing wasn't going to be how I thought it was going to be. That was the
Yeah.
biggest obstacle I've ever dealt with, knowing that I had a 2-year-old, a newborn, and I was going home to care for my newborn and my 2-year-old at the same time, because hubby
Caring for
worked.
yourself as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to heal physically and emotionally from what had happened. And I didn't think that the birth trauma or that experience actually got to me
Yeah.
until I did the work, and I was like, far out. So
Yeah.
from that moment, I knew that it was time that I did something about my life, and I changed it, because things were going good before that, as good as they were. Like, I didn't think that these things were going to pop up, or I didn't think I was being not the best mum by letting my anxiety get in the way.
Yeah.
And when I say my anxiety, I'm going to reject that statement, because it's not mine. It's not mine to keep. The
No,
anxiety
good.
I have,
Because I was going to say, because
yeah,
we do tend to do that. Like, oh,
yes,
I'm tired. No, no, you're feeling tired.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sick.
exactly.
No, you're feeling sick. So
Yeah.
yeah, that can be a whole new podcast we'll jump
We
on.
can do that on
Lisa.
another
Yeah.
day if you like.
Yeah.
So I knew that I needed to do something about it. And I knew I
Yeah.
needed to break a lot of cycles, because I could see that those cycles were playing out from lineages above
Yes.
me. And I knew that I could break these cycles so that my kids, their future kids don't have to deal with that in the future.
Nice.
So that was the biggest obstacle. And that I turned my pain into power, which then turned into purpose by creating my business.
Yeah.
So it's a very
Beautiful.
heart-led business that I have.
Yeah. And so that example might still fit into this question, or you might have a new one. But I also feel like, the challenges or the obstacles we have in life at the time might seem really overwhelming, but they are purposeful down the
Yeah,
line. So do you
absolutely.
have an obstacle that's popped up that you were really probably not happy with at the time, but now you look back and you go double thumbs up, grateful for that one?
There's absolutely been a few. That situation, for example, one, because I knew that there was signs in my body that I needed to slow down, or I needed to address, and I never did. And the universe sat me on my ass pretty much. It was like, you need to stop. You're gonna
You're not
die if you don't.
listening.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna die if you don't, quite
Yeah.
literally. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy mackerel, okay. So
Yeah.
that was one. There's been quite a few things within relationship that have happened that I don't think a lot of people would have traversed through
Yeah.
in their model of the world, that
Yeah.
at the time I thought were horrific or have been really challenging, and now I'm like, okay, it's actually helped us in a sense to
Yeah.
see different versions of each other, to support each other on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Like, after being in a relationship for 11 years, lots of different things can evolve, and obviously with me evolving so much, you can find some, like in relationships, some people either grow with you or grow apart.
Yes.
So by having a husband that's not very much involved in this type of work, he's coming along for the ride now. And that
That's
doesn't
so
that
good.
doesn't necessarily mean he's doing the deep inner change work, or he's, preaching what I talk about. He's just open to listening now, which is fabulous, because it's a huge shift from where we were before.
And also when you're doing the work, the people around you, you can start triggering them as well,
Oh
because
yeah.
their not enoughness comes through because you're shining so bright. So
Yeah.
kudos to him for being able to sit in that and just appreciate you and not
Yeah,
self-reflect in that in him.
there's definitely been some challenges along the way where he's been like, I don't like what's going on, like this is triggering for me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, just hold
Good
on,
on you
babe.
for having a voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we've grown a lot through that, and I've appreciated every moment. I'm just trying to think. I feel like work was another one. Like,
Yeah.
I absolutely adore the company I work for, and my boss, bless her, I've known her since I was 14, so she's like another mother to me. And I
Yeah.
remember when I started all this shoot, and she's very old school in the sense, old school Italian lady. And I remember us having a conversation afterwards, just talking about the whole process. And she's like, you're different. I was like, I know. It's great.
Yes.
It's great, isn't it? And so we have such a great relationship where I can then bring different ideas and, thoughts to the table within her because it's her company essentially. And
Yeah,
she gets
yeah.
someone to take them on or check them, and I respect her either way. However, she gets to have somebody in her team that has a whole different perspective of business or running things and, ensuring that we are treating our team and our employees and the educators so respectfully and making sure they're so valued by having this whole other lens of vision behind us now, which
Yeah.
is so great.
And by empowering other people and creating more enoughness in them, then that ripples because then they're not triggered and then they go and treat other people better. And so it's a
And
no-brainer, really.
you'll often find in workplaces that people will get rid of people just like that, which,
Yeah.
if that works for them. However, when did you stop to actually work with that employee to try and better their performance or try and better their mental health or try and come up with some sort of plan together
Mm.
to be able to work towards the next goals and the steps and shadow them and mentor them so they can grow with you and with your company rather than like, all right, bye-bye. Like,
Yeah.
of course, there's some people that you can't do that with.
Mm.
However, I say can't because sometimes there's some people that aren't willing to take that on.
Yeah.
However,
Or they're not ready at that point, right?
yes,
So yeah, I love how you reframe the can't, because it's not that you can't work with them. It's just that their mind isn't open enough to
yeah,
accept it because they have still their journey to go through, right?
exactly.
They've got their experiences to go through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And my last question is, I believe that when we have this strength of self, then that is what we put out to the world, which is pretty much summed up this podcast, right? What you've
Yeah,
shared with us.
absolutely.
But do you have any daily, weekly, or monthly practices that you do that strengthen that
Yeah.
connection with your inner self?
So daily in the mornings, I'll listen to a guided meditation, and it doesn't have to be long, 5 to 10 minutes.
Yep.
From then, I will do a hypnosis most nights before bed, depending on what the work schedule's been like at night.
Yep.
However, having fun, this is a huge key contributing factor to
Love it.
everything. A lot of people forget to have fun.
Yeah.
Like, my kids must think I'm crazy because I have got music blaring, I'm dancing around, and they join in. They're getting to
Yeah.
express themselves because they can see that mum's doing it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm still human. I get frustrated at times when they're not listening and things like that. However, making sure that your morning routine and night routine is strong and it is consistent with
Yeah.
discipline. So for me now, I've never been one to exercise ever. I'm tiny. And in my head, I thought I don't have to exercise because I'm tiny.
Yeah.
And so I knew after this ordeal with my daughter that I wanted to be strong in all senses, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Physically, not so much. I wasn't. So
Yeah.
this year I made
Yeah.
it my New Year's, what's it called? Resolution,
Resolution. Yeah. Yeah.
to physically build strength. So for the last 3 months now, I've gone to Pilates 5 days a week out of the 7. And
Yeah.
that is a huge shift because I would never, ever in my life exercise. So I've been committed because in the past I used my children as an excuse as to why I
Of course.
couldn't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't go, they'll wake up while I'm gone. I can't go because they'll need me. I can't. Anyway, so I cut the crap and
Yeah.
I've been going for 3 months now and I've made sure I've set that time
Nice.
aside for myself because
Yeah.
after that, I'm grounded. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meditation, your morning routine, night routine, and just really focusing on who you're surrounding yourself with. What tables are you sitting at?
Yeah. Yeah.
You want
Love
to be
it.
sitting at tables with people that are already done what you want to do or a couple of steps above so you can work towards that. You don't want to be
Yeah.
sitting with people that don't have any inspiration or not even motivation, any frequency of the energy exchange to be on the same level. Like if they're lower, you don't want to be mingling with that because that's what you're going to end up rippling across to your life.
Exactly. And what's the saying? If you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room, right? So
Exactly.
go
And this is why,
learn and grow.
and this is why I say to my clients or to my audience, invest in somebody that's investing in themselves.
Yeah.
So you don't want to invest in a coach and mentor that is stagnant in what they've learned and it's
Yeah.
just that's it. They've learned, they've done their qualifications, that's it. You want someone that, because when we reach the next level, there's the same devil there that we need to work through in a
Exactly.
different scenario. So
Yes.
every level that we access, there's more to unravel. And that's why
Yeah.
I will never actually not invest in somebody. At the moment, I have 2 coaches for
Yeah.
very different things because I
Yeah.
really want to continue to evolve and reach my highest purpose and not allow those shadows to control what I know to be true.
Love it. Love it. So if anyone wanted to reach out with you, connect with you, even work with you as a client, like what's the best way for them to find you?
The best way to find me would be my Instagram page. That's where most people do. I'm going to sneeze.
Oh, bless you. No? Yes? I hate that. No pressure. No pressure.
Not while we're recording. That's okay. It's authentic. It's true.
Yes,
this is me.
that's us.
Instagram is the best place to find me. I share a lot of my day-to-day thoughts, downloads, codes on there. On Linktree, you'll have access to booking a 30-minute complimentary connection call if you want to have a chat with me.
Awesome.
I also have 2 free resources on there. So there is a cleansing, clearing, and cutting challenge that goes for 5 days, which is also on there. And I also have the Awaken Masterclass, which is complimentary too, to anybody that wants to get a taste of what it's like to invest in yourself and to open up mind, body, soul, spirit to what it's like on the other side of just living this simulation that we know as, in my opinion, the 3D simulation. So you can find me on Instagram. I have a website. I'm sure we'll have all the links for you to click on.
Yep, we'll have them all here. Yes.
Otherwise, reach out to my DMs. I love chatting with people.
Yeah, no worries. I get it. Well, thank you very much for jumping on, Alissa. I really appreciate your time today and the conversation and the synergies. And I have no doubt that anyone that does choose to work with you will meet with some great success.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining in and listening to this episode of Catching the Octopus podcast. It's been great having you here. And if you'd like to go and like and subscribe and maybe even leave a 5-star rating if you think it's worth it, I'd really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.